Hello everyone. Let's get started. So, welcome. Let me get my chat window up. There we go. Tonight, my goal is to try to get Bazel to work with CAS Play. Bazel is, sort of the de facto REAPI client, and it ought to be able to use CAS Play as a remote CAS for storing its intermediate artifacts. And I'd like to try and make that work. Before we do that though, I have been fiddling with CAS Play in my spare time and have added some logging to it. So if I come along and get another terminal, and let's try that upload that we used to use last time. It completes the upload, and well, there's nothing logged because we haven't added any major logging beyond that. Or was that uploading to? No, that was uploading to build grid. Let's tell it to upload to something more useful. That's endpoint. There we go. Upload to CAS Play. This time we get lots of nice logging. I'll make the text a little smaller. I don't know how legible that will be, but it might be useful for being able to see what's going on. And you can see here, handling capabilities request for invocation unknown. And then there were some writes, 500 blob update, another big write, and another couple of blobs of update. The invocation unknown here is because I have added support for what the Remote Execution API calls request metadata. So if we pop across to some code, let's get the proto up because that will be useful for us later. And let's go and get the CAS Play server code. So request metadata. If we pop into here, request metadata, you can see here that the Remote Execution protocol defines this message, and it says that it's going to be in a header. So build.bazel.remote.execute blah 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 blah. Oh goodness me, a stream raid. This is unexpected. Hello Slayer. And this header encodes information about the tool that's talking to us and its invocation ID and things like that. And while CAS Play doesn't set any of this metadata, we could go and modify the client to set it up. Instead, we're just going to use this when we start playing with Bazel. Hi, Peter. Hi, Adam. Nice to see you. So I suppose step one is to get Bazel working at all, and let's have a go at that. So I have, here we go. This is some Bazel examples, and we have a nice README. Here's some tests. Let's just have a go at that. And it's, what's it doing? Goodness me, quite a few things. Right, so that ran 43 actions and completed its build. What I'd like to be able to do is verify that we can make that talk to a remote server. So if I make our command line, well, if I don't clean it and I run it again, it completes immediately. If we stick a Bazel clean in the way, it's going to clean that output and then try again. But let's actually try telling it to use a remote cache. Let's 5.2 was the CAS, I think. Let's try that. Okay. My upload results is set, but the current account is not authorized to write local results to the remote cache. Well, that's irritating. No, hang on. Let's have a look. Dev git build grid cache. Oh, that's actually on 5.0.5.3, not on 5.0.5.2. Okay, let's try that. Failed to query remote execution capabilities. Invalid argument instance does not exist on server. Oh dear. Well, step one, we need to make things work at all. Joy. Let's have a look. Build grid, what are you doing? I'm going to make this text a bit smaller as well so I can read more of it. That was the get capabilities request. And you can see here that build grid is actually logging information from the request metadata. So we've got tool name Bazel, tool version 3.7.2.2, capabilities, blah, 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 blah. Okay, how are we going to make this work? This cache says allow updates true. That's fascinating. Let's get CASplay in and dump the entire capabilities set from that endpoint. So let's just grab the CASplay client. Let's pop down to where we output the capabilities. Let's stick a grab off that. To do all caps, it's that. Oh, hang on. What's Adam saying? Change the instance name, maybe. Enabled. Blah, blah. Instance name is empty there. Does that also need to be set in the caches section? Or the services section? I'm not sure. Or do you think Bazel is accessing a different instance name? That example has cache as the instance name, fixed in master. Well, if that's fixed in master, then you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to waste a lot of time running Docker. While that's happening, let's do this. Print line debug output of all caps. And in fact, let's format that up nicely. So if I git pull in here, whoa, that was a lot of changes. Docker compose up. Do I have to rebuild? Or is that already doing all of its things? You want the name key. Well, build grid is starting up now, and this now says instance name, blah. So that data hasn't changed. Okay, so we may need to reconfigure this still. Let's get CASplay in on it though. Let's cargo run -- endpoint localhost 5053, which we think we said was the one that we wanted, caps. So let's see what's going on here. Transport error. Is build grid not running? Controller, cache. Server reflection is enabled. Have I screwed everything up by doing a get pull? Validating, blah, blah, blah. Creating an action cache service. That should all be there. And that does say 50053. Let's see if it just hadn't started yet. Do I have a netstat? So it's definitely got a BGD server start running on that. I wonder if we can find out what ports that has open. Give me a moment to... Okay. Hang on. Another change is that everything is on 50051 for the default Docker compose. Aha! Okay, right. Right, where's my CASplay call? 50051 for capabilities. Excellent. Okay. Via an Nginx proxy. That makes a lot of sense. So, server capabilities is there, action cache capabilities update is enabled, blah, 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 blah. Let's try to do that on our Bazel call here. I wonder if that's... So just using remote cache, it's not doing remote execution, I don't think. At least I hope not. If it is, then that's going to be an unfortunate cheat. Do you know if that ran via remote execution? I think it didn't. I think this 27 Linux sandbox means that it ran it locally. But even if we clean and rerun that, it should be very quick because it should be able to get all of those from the action cache. I don't think it did. That's depressing. Oh, joy. I did wonder if Bazel was going to be my downfall for this stream. Let's see what's going on here. Remote CAS backend used before gRPC initialization. Unexpected error in update action result. Do I perhaps just need to kill this and let the Docker Compose come up again properly? Let's try that. Just in case. Come on. You can stop. Takes a surprisingly long time to stop some of these binaries. Okay, database system is ready. Bots, controller. Presumably that's everyone. Talk to it this time. No, we're still getting a lot of remote CAS backend used before gRPC initialization. Well, this makes me sad. Can I blame you, Adam? Is this all your fault? Have I ruined my stream because you suggested that it was fixed on master? If so, I'll use my ref log to go back. Let's just check the CAS is working at all. Upload to 50051. That's clearly working, you know. It's able to write to the CAS. So the CAS is there. It's just for some reason that the action cache can't talk to it. Okay, we're going into this blind, everybody. We are not able to point at build grid and say that it works. We're just going to have a go at writing it all for ourselves. Woohoo! Okie dokie. Let's get rid of that terminal. We don't need it. And let's set that to use port 5000, which is our cache that we have locally. It's this one. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of build grid. It's going to make me sad. I'm not entirely sure what that means, so I'm going to assume it's a bot. And I'm going to remove that message. Bye-bye, build grid. Okay. Remote upload local results is set, but the current account is not authorized to write local results to the remote cache. So the first thing that we need to do is to make CASplay claim that we can write to it. I'm going to guess, on the basis that we know we can write to the CAS, that this has something to do with the action cache. Tell you what, I'm just going to hit Control-Z until that all goes away again so that we're not dealing with that. So, capabilities, it's a server capabilities object, okay. And so cache capabilities execution, blah. So it's probably going to be the cache capabilities. Let's see if we can find those. Action cache update capabilities. Uy, caramba. Action cache update capabilities. Okay. That was a long way to find a Boolean, wasn't it? Let's go and add that to our capabilities reply, shall we? Oh, actually, I should probably show you how I did the request metadata first. So what I did was I added, first of all, this trace function, tracing span, and then I added an interceptor for showing metadata. I then wrote a trait called headerGet that just retrieves a given key value thing, because the trace function gets given an HTTP request, but the show metadata thing gets given a tonic gRPC request. So I needed to be able to cope with extracting the request metadata from both. So I just wrote a trivial trait for that, which is just that. So the extract metadata says, give me the header, get the build.bazel.execution v2 request metadata bin, which, if you recall from the proto, was what it said it would be in. We then do a base 64 decode, and then we do a request metadata decode. So that gets us a request metadata or nothing. Tracing span then puts together a span that says, hey, the tool is tool name / tool version, and the invocation ID comes out, and we wrap every request basically in a span that says the tool is this and the invocation is this. And what that should do is, here you can see it, where we handle a capabilities request, and given that these lines are enormously long anyway, let's make the text a bit bigger for everyone. So we can see tool was Bazel blah, invocation was that, handling a capabilities request. And this handling a capabilities request can also see the invocation ID. And the way that I've made that work is that the show metadata, which is the function that is called as an interceptor layer, extracts the metadata object, and if it's present, inserts it into the extensions for the request. Otherwise, it constructs an empty piece of metadata and inserts that. And what that means is that all the functions that care about retrieving the metadata can just go, give me the metadata, and they will get something even if it's empty. So, capabilities. Action cache update capabilities. We've got a none here, so we want an action cache update capabilities. Fill the struct fields, update enabled, true. Mismatched type expected an option. Of course it did, because this is gRPC. Okay, let's restart our server. It's times like this that having some kind of hot reload would be cool, but never mind. And let's try running Bazel against it now. Okay, so Bazel is running. And it's called, well, it said handling capabilities request. That was the capabilities request, and we've got find missing blobs unimplemented all over the place. Presumably, this is why this says, you know, reading from remote cache, unimplemented null, writing to remote cache, unimplemented, not implemented. So step one is probably to implement find missing blobs. So let's do that. Find missing blobs is going to be here. Okay. So let's have a go at implementing this. What does find missing blobs do? Determine if blobs are present in the CAS, blah, blah. Determine which one should be uploaded. The server should increase the lifetimes. Well, we're a never deleted hash map, so we're not going to worry about lifetimes. Find missing blobs request, find missing blobs response. So request has an instance name that we'll have to check, and then a repeat of digests. Okay, that's fine. And the response has repeated digest missing, so the blobs that are not present. Right, because it's missing blobs that we're finding. Okay, let's make that happen. Step one, we need the instance check. I should really work out a way to normalize this. Boop, and request is going to be, let's get rid of the underscore on the front of request there. Request into inner, so that we can start to extract the digests from it. Like below, we'll do a find missing blobs response. And it was a repeated, which means that it's a vector. So what do we need to do in order to do this? We need to basically determine for every digest that comes in the request, whether or not it's present in the storage. If it's present, we move on. If it's not present, we add the digest to the response. And then finally, we'll return the response. So let's get hold of the server. So self.server. So that's a mutex guard. If we do that once, it means we're going to lock the hash table. We'll scan it really quickly, and then we can unlock it again when we return. For digest in request.blob digests. Looking good so far. If not, inner.content.contains key digest. So if we do not have this digest in our CAS, then response.missing blob digests.push digest. Shove it into the response. Unless I'm mistaken, that is find missing blobs. I mean, super dodgy, but that's find missing blobs. So let's give that a go, shall we? Let's run that again. So we still get these unimplemented messages, which isn't great. No, that would be because I haven't restarted the server. I've had a long day. That's my excuse. A long, long day. Don't blame me. Let's go again. Still says unimplemented, but it is handling writes. So lots and lots of writes are coming in, little ones. It's interesting it's not doing a batch update blobs. There's some quite big ones there. They're presumably binaries. But we still get unimplemented null, unimplemented null. Let's see if we can work out what that is meant to be. So, tell you what, I'm just going to commit that because why not? Let's just check. So this is enable action cache and implement find missing blobs. Let's, do I want both? No, let's not do a commit. Okay. We want to find out what's going on. Well, conveniently, this tracing span function is being called right at the beginning when we have an HTTP request. I wonder if we can print out the URL of what's being requested. Info request URI. I think it's that. And often URIs and URLs are spelled the same. Nope, that's not allowed. URI. Well, that's not an error. So let's run the server and see if we can see what's going on. Obviously, yeah, we said we've got an action cache, but we don't actually have one yet. So we're expecting those to error. But what exactly is being called that's causing this problem? Okay, so we started. We got to get capabilities. This is looking good. So lots of get action results, which obviously we haven't implemented yet. Find missing blobs, which we just implemented. A bunch of writes. What's interesting is you can see here four writes in parallel happening. So we know that our byte streams and everything else work in parallel, which is quite cool. Then we've got update action, so more action cache stuff. CAS find blobs, more action cache, and byte stream. I think it's fair to say that the things that aren't being called are action cache. You seem to remember things not handling things trying to push empty or null things. I wonder if it pushes something silly. Well, I don't think there's anything weird going on here. I think it's just going to be that, you know, get action result and update action result need implementing. So we should probably work out how to do those. Let's do that. Can I remember how we wrote our servers? Yes. Okay. So we need a struct play action cache. And that's going to have an inner, which is an arc of a mutex of a CAS server. Import play action cache new. Not cache capabilities. CAS server. Giving back a self inner. I think that was the trivial constructor that we designed before. Smells right. Let's go and add that to the server builder here. Add service. So this is going to be an action cache server of a play action cache of arc clone of our server. What have I done wrong? Right. The trait bound, blah, blah, blah. Action cache is not satisfied. Ah. Yes. Back down to the bottom. And this is almost certainly going to be an async trait. And let's import that. And then you're going to tell us that not all the trait items are implemented. Async function. What was the name of the things that we weren't implementing? Get action result. And let's do our usual cleanup. Replace qualified path with use. Do it there as well. And there. And we're going to return a tonic status, a status new of a unimplemented with the message get action result not implemented. We've still not implemented everything. There was a sync fn update action result. This is the boring bit. And we'll find an error here of a status new of a code unimplemented. Update action result not implemented. Right, having done that, let's see what Bazel does. Okay. Go, Bazel, go. Yep. Okay, so those two errors were in fact exactly those two functions. There are no more weird nulls and other joy. So we can be pretty confident that we need to implement those two functions, and then life will be good. Well, there's no point with get not working. We'll implement get once we've implemented update. So let's have a look at an update action result. Oh, that's going to be painful. An update action result request. Okay, what have we got? An instance. Of course we have an instance. Let's do our instance check. Yoink. And I'll bet you anything you like we'll have one there as well, so we'll stick an instance check there. What do we get next? Ooh, no method named server found for... Oh, that's a dodgy little function that I wrote, isn't it? Play CAS server. Let's yoink that out. And stick that in here. And are we good? We're good. So how does this work? So we've got an instance. We've done that. Action digest. The digest of action whose result is being uploaded. Fine. Action result. The result to store in the cache. And then a results cache policy. Server will have a default policy if this is not provided. This may be applied to the action result and the associated blobs. That may suggest we can ignore this for now. So I'm going to ignore that for now. So we've got an action digest, which is the thing that Bazel is trying to run, and an action result, which is the result of having run that. And we need to map the two together. So what's an action result? Message action result. An action result represents the result of being run. It is advised at least one field. Right. So there's some output files. There's output symlinks. There's all sorts of interesting stuff described here. Directories, output directory symlinks, exit code. It's standard out and standard error. Execution method. Right, okay. It's a load of data that we need to store. I don't like storing big things in hash tables, so we may as well shove the action result into the CAS as well. And my guess is that's what BuildGrid was doing. You know, what was broken was somehow it wasn't connected properly between the action cache and the CAS that BuildGrid has. So, how are we going to do this? Let's grab the request out first. Let's not print line, sorry. Let's go info. Handling, upload. Let's just go update, action result, like that. On request.digest. I'm gonna guess that's an option because everything else has been. So let's do that, and then let's see what ends up being said. Oh, it's not digest. It's find again. What was it? It was update action result request. It's action digest. Is that right? That's happier. Let's get a new CAS play. In fact, actually, I'm going to cancel that again. I'm just going to pop up here and get rid of the request URI. We don't need it, and it will just spam the logs otherwise. Okay, CAS is running. That looks good. Update action result for digest blah. Makes sense. So let's actually get the action result into something we can use now. We need to encode the action result, which is going to be request.actionResult, into a piece of data that we can put into the CAS storage. So that means that we need to presumably serialize it first. So let result bin equal request.actionResult. I'm going to unwrap it again because, like heck, do I believe that it's going to be encode to vec. Something like that. And it's unused, which means it's almost certainly working. So that'll be a vector of bytes. We need to go result char is going to be digest bytes of result bin. That's interesting. Is encode to vec wrong? Frost message encode to vec does give you back a vec. Let's I imagine that Rust Analyzer is just being more than a little confused there. So let's force it to know what's going on. So result digest is a digest where the hash is result char and the size in bytes is result bin.len as an I64. And given that, let's just yoink that out and pop it in there, because we don't need the intermediate. Next step, we need to insert the result into the action cache, into the CAS, sorry. So that's going to be self.server, content, insert the result digest, and result bin converted into an arc of data. Wait for it. Okay. So that insertion has put the action result into the CAS. Now let's store the mapping between the action digest and the result digest. So that's going to need us to have another map. Let's go and put that into CAS server. So we've got content. Let's have actions as a hash map from digest to digest. So that's mapping from action digest to action result digest. Actions is a new hash map. Let's go and use it. Server actions insert result digest. No, we need the request digest, which is request action digest and the result digest. How broken am I? You're not allowed to do that, so let's get it cloned. What? No method cloned exists for this. Its trait bounds are not satisfied. Is it just a clone on an option? Will that shut it up? No. What am I not allowed now? Request action digest moved. Oh my flipping heck. Right, screw this. Request, let's go action digest is request.action digest dot map digest clone dot unwrap. Do we think that will work? What are we not happy about here? That's happier. Okay, right. Now here, instead of doing all of that, we can just go action digest. And instead of all of this crap here, we can just say action digest. And we're probably missing a clone on result digest here. So all of that makes sense. What gets returned from an update action result? Blah, 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 into this. Server implementations may modify the action result and return an equivalent value. And it does return an action result. I'm not going to modify it. I'm just going to return it. So instead of that, we're now in a position we can go, okay, response new of request.action results dot unwrap. At that point, we can probably pull it out. Are we seriously not allowed to pull it out? Rude. Oh, it's still the. Ugh. Right. Let's do what we did up here. Let result equal request action results. As ref map action result clone unwrap. And then let's return result. Move occurs because request action result has type that. Is this? It's moved due to this unwrap. I bet we don't need that clone anymore. Never mind. Right, so in theory, the action result is... the update action result should be working now. Let's give that a go. We're only getting one implemented for get action result this time. And we definitely had calls to update action result, and we didn't return errors. So we're getting somewhere. I suppose we do get action result now. So get action result takes a get action result request, returns an action result. A get action result request looks like this. So instance, we've already checked. Action digest. That's our key into that actions hashtag. A hint to request inlining stood out. A hint to request inlining stood out. A hint to the server to inline the contents. Given these are all hints, I'm assuming we can get away with just ignoring them. So I'm only caring about the action digest. Okay, let's do this. Let's request into inner action digest is request.actiondigest.asref map digest clone unwrap. There will be nicer ways of dealing with this stuff. Basically, we could process the protobuf messages into things that aren't full of options, but you know, blech. I can ignore inlining. Thank you, Adam. Okay, so we've got our action digest. Let's go. Let result digest is self.server.actions.get action digest. Now that's a borrow, so let's try cloning that. I'm allowed to call cloned on that. Ugh. Okay, whatever. My brain is not very switched on today with Rust. So if some result digest is all of that, else, and rather than unimplemented, we're going to say not found, and we'll say format action digest hash, action digest size bytes. Okay. In here, we need to do the work. So we've been given the result digest back. What we need to do now is look that up in the content tree. I'll tell you what, actually, rather than doing this cloning, which is a bit silly, let's grab, just like we did before, let's go, let's server is that. So we'll get the mutex guard once. And then we don't need to do this silly cloning because, you know, we're holding the borrow, but who cares? Let's go for let some result data is server content get result digest. I'm going to map that to Arc clone because cloning an Arc is trivially cheap and it was annoying me. Okay. So this means that we stored an action result into the CAS, but for some reason it no longer exists. Code not found. So that's the error case for it was there, but it didn't work. So now we need to get the action result object back out. So we're going to go let result, which is an action cache. No, it's an action result. Decode the result data. Map error E. So the error that we get from a decode is a prost decode error. We need to convert it to a tonic status. So let's go for error status new of. So this is a decode error. Let's go with internal. Format, blah, blah, action, result does not decode. And this time, let's do the result digest rather than the action digest. Because if we were ever going to try to debug this, we'd end up needing to get that back out of the CAS. The trait bound arc blah bytes buff is not satisfied. Good. Mismatched types. Okay, so we have our result, which is an action result. So we just can go response new of result. Unused variable E. Let's put that into the message. Okay. Well, that was a frenetic bit of coding. And it compiles, but will it work? Place your bets now. 3, 2, 1. We didn't get any warnings. There's no unimplemented messages. That's interesting. I mean, there won't have been any action results in there. So if all that happened is we went not found, then, you know, Bazel's not going to complain to us. What happened there? I didn't add any debug printing for get action results. Let's actually add some of that now. Info get action result of blah blah. You tell I'm fed up with the debug now. And here I'm just going to go info success. We found a result. Because why not? It's useful. Let's run that. I noticed that nobody's placed any bets about whether any of this is actually going to work, though. So your faith in me is astounding, everybody. Run. So that ran successfully. Let's go back to here. Get action result, blah. We didn't see a success, so that almost certainly did a not found. So, took 5.8 seconds. 43 processes, 16 internal, 27 Linux sandbox, 43 total actions. Run it again. Whoa! I think that worked. Goodness me. And Adam said, yeah, it'll work. Wow. That's less than an hour to an action cache. That is a lot less time than I was expecting, honestly. I was expecting us to take way longer. Whew. Speed. Yeah, I don't know if it's fast. It's all running in debug mode. Should we try running it in release mode and see if that makes it faster? Oh, I'm not done yet. Okay. I claimed victory too early, and Adam has snatched defeat from the jaws of that victory. I need to validate the result. What does that mean? Let's go back to the proto and see if that tells us. Validate isn't a word. Check all the outputs are in the CAS. Ah, so I have to do that, do I? Get action result. Implementations should ensure that any blobs referenced are available at the time of returning the action result and for some time afterwards. You see, I mean, should. It's in big capital letters. It's only should. That's a very RFC statement. Okay, let's try and do that because, you know, it sounds like a sensible thing to do. So we found an action result. We've constructed it. We want to validate it. So how can we validate it? Well, number one, we're going to have to drop the mutex guard on the server. Or we have to do it all inline here, or we can pass a CAS server borrow into... Okay, success, we found a result. If self.validate result with the server and the result, if not self.validate, well, if self-validate, then we're going to OK it, else we're going to go error, response, new, error, not response, new, status, new, code. What do you suppose it's going to be? I suppose not found. And this time the message is going to be action result references something not present in the CAS. Okay, so we need to write that validate result function. Fn validate result takes a... does it even take a self? I mean, it can, but we've already extracted the server. So let's do self : validate result. So I'm not tempted to be confused here. Server, CAS server, result, action result, and it gives us a boolean back for whether or not it's good. And for now, we'll just stick a true on the end while we think about this thing. So let's go back and find message action result. Ooh, okay. The output files of the action. For each output file requested in output files or output files of the action, if the corresponding file existed, a single entry will be present in this field or the output file symlinks field. If an output file was found, but it was a directory, the server is going to precondition fail anyway. Clients must not assume this is sorted. So it's a message output file, which has a path and a digest and a bunch of other bits and bobs. So let's look up the digest. The contents of the file, if inlining was requested, should not inline. Right, so this is only if we were handling those extra flags in the request. So we only need to check the digest. So what was that? That was a repeated output file here. For file in action result dot output files. Blech. Result dot output files iter. If not server content contains key file.digest.asref.unwrap, return false. We're checking the output files. What comes next? Output file symlinks. I'm guessing that's just data, so I'm going to ignore that. The output directory is the action. For each output directory requested in the output directory's output paths, if the corresponding directory existed after the action completed, a single entry will be present which consists of the digest of a tree message containing the directory tree and the path equal exactly to the corresponding action output directory's member. As an example, suppose the action output directory AB, the output directory proto consists of path blah tree digest mumble. The tree proto contains all of these things. If an output of the same name as this is output files was found in output directories but not a directory, then it's a failed precondition. Ooh, okay, so we need to process trees. And trees contain... don't know, right. Message tree. The root directory. All the child directories referred to by the root and recursively all of its children. Client must take the digest of each of the child directories and then build up a tree starting from the root. Okay, so this is everything necessary. So, let's begin. For tree, well no, let's go dir in result.output directories.iter. Let tree equal dir dot tree digest dot as ref dot unwrap. So we've now got a tree digest that we need to look up. If let sum tree equal content get new to Rust helps load seeing your code. Oh wow. Yeah, this is not code that's going to be easy for someone new to Rust, but welcome. And I hope that you continue to get a little something out of this. It's a bit crazy. We have two earlier streams as well, if you want to see just how many mistakes I make through all of this. Okay, so we've got ourselves a tree which we need to decode. Okay, if let sum tree is tree, which is one of those, decode tree.asRef map. Let's go with OK, because that should work. Else return false, because let me annotate these so that we can remember what this means. So file didn't exist. Tree didn't decode. Tree didn't exist. Let's I'm just going to do that to shut various things up. So a tree object has a directory object root, which is going to contain a bunch of files, and a repeated directory children. Each child contains a bunch of files, but they're also going to contain directory digests. So we should make sure that all of those digests are still in existence somehow. So, how are we going to do this? Let's go for dir in tree.children.iter chain with tree.root.asRef. So that'll be every single directory object in the tree. And for every single directory object in the tree, we want to test that the files exist and the directory objects exist in the CAS. Otherwise, it's considered a bad thing. For digest in dir.files.iter.map, given a file node, we want the message file node. We want the .digest. Oh no, it's just getting too difficult. For file node in dir.files.iter. If not server content contains key file node digest as ref unwrap. File node wasn't found. Return false. For dir node in dir.directories.iter. If not server.content.contains key dir node.digest as ref unwrap. Dir node wasn't found. Return false. I mean, we'll probably end up having to come in here and shove a whole bunch of checking in here, but getting there. Matching on sum with .ok is redundant. Replace. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Is that everything I need to validate, Adam? I think it is. We have validated that the output files all exist. We've validated that all of the output directories contain all of the trees. I suppose I should just go and look back at action result. Output files. The symlinks I don't think are anything. Output directories. Symlinks, exit code. These are bytes. Oh no, there's more digests to check. So we've got a stdout digest and a stdir digest to check as well. And then we need to see what the execution metadata is. Probably need to check the symlink nodes. Really? Message output symlink. Full path of symlink relative to the working directory. It's just 2 strings and node properties. If you're suggesting that I should check that they are consistent, then it would be a pain. There's serialized gRPC messages stored in CAS. Right, but they were loaded automatically when we loaded the entire action result, because they're inlined into it. They're not referred to by digest. You've got yourself confused. Okay, cool. Message action result. Where was I? Oh, I won't ignore you. I'll just consider you wrong in this context. So we've got a stdout digest and a stdir digest that we should check. But this time, they might not be valid. So, if let some digest is tree, no, it's result, stood out digest as ref. We've got a digest, but again, that digest might be serialized in, but it might be empty. I think you can have empty digests. So if digest.hash.len is empty. If not, the hash isn't empty, then we're going to try and verify that digest contain. So if not, server content contains key digest. Stood out is missing. False. And we can repeat that block once more for stdir. And I think that's all the digests, unless there's some in the execution metadata. Message executed action metadata. String, timestamps, durations, timestamps, auxiliary metadata. Right, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not supposed to look inside that. Let's go and see what these errors are. Return false. And collapse the nested blocks. What's gone wrong? All sorts of weird. So if it's not empty and wait for it. I think we're good. Action result. References something not present in the CAS does not need to be a format. Let's run it again. If this works and doesn't explode, are we okay? In fact, let's just also do an info here which says something was missing when validating action result. And if we see that, then we'll stick some more debugging to work out what's missing. Okay, everyone except Adam can now place bets, which is that if this all works, is Adam going to tell me I still haven't finished? Let's run Bazel. So this is running it locally because we've just restarted the CAS. So that worked. And then let's run it again. And it is still taking a lot of time. So something went wrong. Something was missing when validating action result. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's take a guess. Okay. Info. Failed to find digest blah or file blah. File digest. Let's get the digest out first. Digest dot hash digest dot size bytes file dot name. No field name on output file. Available fields are path digest blah path. Do we think it's one in here? It might be. So let's do this transformation again. File node. Deboop and deboop. And then let's grab our info from our file node and pop it in there. Or let's go nested file node. That. And that one is name. If we do the same with directories. For nested directory node. Tree didn't decode. Tree didn't exist. Stood out was missing. Stood was missing. So those are all the error cases. Step one, get everything into the CAS. And let's have a look. There's no scary answers there. Step two, try and run it. It's failing to find the stuff. Stood out was missing. Stood was missing. Interesting. So those weren't empty digests. Prediction stood out or stood out? Yes, thanks. What's going wrong? Let's have a look. Let's actually output what digest is missing then. Stood out missing bloop/bloop, which is digest.hash digest.size bytes. Do the same for std. Run once. Everything there is looking good. Run again. Stood out was missing. All of these digests look the same. They're all 0 bytes long as well. Does that just mean it's a fake digest? Like, should I be checking for size bytes 0 rather than hash of empty? Or is it something else? I have no idea. Is that the SHA-256 of nothing? Starts E3B and ends 855. Starts E3B and ends 855. It's the empty blob. Why is Bazel doing that? That's a good question. Is Bazel just not uploading the empty blob? Is referencing it, but it's not uploading it. Are we supposed to initialize our CAS with that blob in the cache? You know, like Git has some sort of empty default trees and empty blobs and things automatically. Are we meant to automatically have that? We are. Okay, right. Fine. I'm going to be super cheeky and just take that SHA. Bazel does not upload it. Thanks, Bazel. You're really cool. Ret equals that. Ret.content.insert digest hash into size bytes 0, comma, vec into ret, and that probably needs to be mute. A secret part of the spec that lives in Bazel rather than the proto. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that should insert an empty digest. Or rather, that should insert the digest for the empty value into the content table when we construct a CAS server. Let's give that a go. Ba-da-ba-bum-ba. We're crashing it. Yay! Oh my goodness me. Okay. I suppose I should stick a comment on that. Doobie-doo. Preload the CAS with the empty blob because Bazel assumes we always have it. It's interesting, it never even did a find missing blobs on it. So it never checked if we had it. Please run in release mode now. Or, since you asked nicely, I'm not convinced it'll make a huge difference because, honestly, we don't do a huge amount of execution in the CAS. I suppose we're hashing what gets uploaded. Are we hashing what gets uploaded to us? I don't think we are. I think we're trusting it. We should probably hash it. Run. Run again. That knocked a couple of 100 milliseconds off runtime, I suppose. That's pretty good, isn't it? I'm quite pleased with that. Let's do it again. And once more, in fact, do I have hyperfine here? I don't. Okay, fine. I don't have hyperfine. I'm pretty pleased with that. That worked. I mean, we are spewing all sorts of crap all over the place. The invocation IDs, do they change? They are changing over time as well, so that's all good. Half the critical path time. Yep. Pretty good. Okay. Well, I think that was our main target, which was to make Bazel work nicely. Do we want to do anything else on this? Or do we want to try doing something funky? I'm not proposing we write an execution service at this point. I'm really, really not going to be able to manage that. What I'm interested in is how many things do we explicitly not implement in the services that we currently have. So we don't do query write status, which is part of the ByteStream API, but in practice, we just don't do that. So there's no point worrying about it. In that if you abort a write halfway through, we delete it. We don't remember it. Then we've got, so we've just done find missing blobs. Batch read blobs we don't implement, but then Bazel doesn't appear to use it, which is interesting. Presumably it would if it was doing something that required a large number of small blobs. If anyone can suggest a way that we can test batch read blobs, then we could implement that. Otherwise, all the services that we've chosen to implement so far, we have implemented fully. I'm actually going to... Let's fix this this query write status. The first thing that we're going to do is actually... Can we parse the resource? When we do a write, we're meant to have an instance name, aren't we? We do the instance check as part of extract digest. That's why I'm not spotting it. Okay, let's do that. Query write status is going to take a write, isn't it? So let digest equals self.extract. You could test it with your toy client. I could, but I'm more interested in real things that work properly. So we're actually processing the request now. So let's just do, it's going to be request.getRef.resource name. Good. That's the thing I was expecting to see. Is write can be true because it is a write. If that didn't say the instance is bad, then we're just going to we're going to return an error, which is code not unimplemented. Actually, we'll do not found because it doesn't matter what you're querying. We can't find that. We never have partial writes. So that's a nicer error return from that rather than having a to-do, which could panic. Realistically, in the write here, we should be verifying that the digest of what you upload matches the digest that you're claiming to have. So I'm going to commit what we've got, and then I'm going to add that fix as well, because I think it's not right that we don't have that. Let's go with add action cache and other tweaks to make Bazel work. I'll push that now so that you guys can benefit from that. But I'm also going to add a check here that the digest is right. So we've got some amount of data. We complete the write. And then before we insert the data, let's verify that the digest matches. So let uploaded digest hash is going to be a digest bytes of data, and size bytes is going to be data.len.as64. Could try using rec in cache only mode, but I don't remember if that uses battery bubs. Yeah, I've never tried running rec under NixOS either. Who knows what it'll do? If uploaded digest does not equal digest, return error, status new, code. What's it going to be? Data, let's go with the invalid argument. Format. Uploaded data has digest blah, whereas upload said it would be blah. Digest hash, uploaded digest size bytes, digest hash, digest size bytes. So that will, if you try to upload something and it doesn't match, that'll error out. I think the only way that we're going to usefully test that is to break the upload blob here, which calls really upload blob, which does a write operation. And all I'm going to do is always write less data. Can I do that? Request.data.pop. No, request.data is a vector. Push a 0 byte. So it's going to break it. Basically, every time it tries to upload, it's going to push too many bytes. Things are going to be wrong. Let's try and make it work. Let's get a CAS play server running. Let's get another terminal. And let's just upload that file. Good. Uploaded thing has digest blah 811, whereas upload said it would be blah 810. That sounds good. And if we pick that bigger file that we said would be uploaded in multiple chunks, 11337 versus 11334. And then if we get rid of that hack, come on, come on, come on, then it works. Okay, so that check works as well. Git commit byte stream ensure uploaded file matches bytewise. Matches digest with request. I mean, so the next thing that we could do is see if there's anything more complex with Bazel to verify that things are right. But my guess is it works. That's just going to work. So. Could I mean, how hard is rec to build? Let's GitLab build grid rec. It needs CMake. Documentation, see that. There's a Docker file for it. Is that Docker file a thing to run it, or something else? Extend path with rec. If I can just use that Docker, or if there's a Docker that I can get, then that would be easy. If I need more than just like build that Docker, then it's going to be a faff. Can I just build that Docker? Let's give it a go. Why not? Yoink. Let's grab rec. Let's see what happens. I'm going to guess that it won't use rec to build itself because that would be strange and silly. And I hope I have enough free space in my Docker partition. Especially given it's now doing an apt update and all sorts of stuff. Here we go. I mean, the fact that it's quotes just CMake unquotes means that in theory I could set up a Nix build for it, but I don't have that stuff off the top of my head, so I'm not going to. So we've got a rec master, and if I do docker run rec master bin bash, if I could spell Docker, life would be good. Right, so we have a compiler, in theory, that we could use. How do I bind stuff into that Docker? So like using my user and stuff. I have no idea. Docker run help. V for a volume. Okay, so let's try. I want a volume of home dsilvers to home dsilvers. Starting container exec stat. Is it a colon? Is it a comma? Is it an equals? Is it a space? I don't know. I don't know how to use Docker. It said -v. Is it -v blah -v blah? Or is it just -v home dsilvers? Or is it that? -v executable file not found. Oh my god. Please tell me Docker isn't that stupid. Is it colon? It is. Target run debug CAS play endpoint caps. It's trying to find glibc from my Nix system. Oh no, it's saying okay. The LD Linux is lib64 LD Linux, but then that uses newer versions of glibc that is available in this Docker. I was going to use CAS play to see if I could connect to the CAS server, but let's just try telnet. Telnet, no. NC, no. I don't know how to use this. We've got rec. Okay, rec help. So how do we tell rec? If set, only attempt to build an action and calculate its digest without running the command. No. Gosh. Cache only. If set, runs rec in cache only mode. Will build anything not available in the remote cache locally rather than failing to build. Let's give a command, runs it on the remote server, also runs it locally. If the command be executed remotely, it must specify a relative absolute path. Rec server is... So, we want to set rec server to localhost 5000. Let's do this. Env rec server localhost 5000. The URL of the CAS server to use by default uses action cache server if set, else rec server action cache server by default uses CAS server else rec. Yeah, so it can be all set with that. That defaults to empty. If set to any value, it's in cache only mode. So we should set that to 1. Do we want to upload failed builds? I don't particularly care right now. Top level of the project root. If the command contains paths within the root, they'll be rewritten to relative paths. I don't know. If I just run that, it's going to say you need to give me a command. So, cat to test.c include stdio void main printf hello badges. Can't remember how to write C. Let's just check cc-o test.c /test. Oh, I need a no v, no nano, fine. Let's just do that again. Right. So if we run rec and we say cc-o test.c, it's compiled it. But how do we know if it's actually done anything with the CAS? Because the answer is that it hasn't talked to our CAS at all. Can we get rec to give us some debugging? No execute, REAPI version, threads. Preserve environment. Skip cache, skips cache lookup. Well, it didn't even look. So it's definitely not doing that. Rec verbose, if set to any value equivalent to rec lock level equals debug. That sounds like a definite thing that we should have a go with. No CAS server set using rec server. No action cache using that. No rec project root defaulting to that. Rec remote platform has no values. Parsing command. Not a compiler command, so running locally. How is cc not a compiler command? How does rec decide what a compiler command is? Is there anything visible here? Not that I can see. Let's see if there's some documentation. For documentation, see this. Running rec. Log messages, configuration file syntax. Rec only supports compilation, not linking. Ah, not linking. Right. Okay. But that wasn't that's not linking. Oh my absolute fucking... Okay, so it doesn't think CC is a compiler, but it thinks GCC is a compiler. No, it's dash. Let's type which. This is Debian, so we'll have which GCC, user bin GCC. Okay. Some bug with CC and rec at the moment. Okay, fair enough. So, getting dependencies using this command. Mapping paths. Building Merkle tree. Command produces file in a location unrelated to the current directory. Does it really? Right. Action digest blah. Creating gRPC channel. Retry limiter. Failed to connect. Okay, so this Docker can't talk to our CAS. So we probably have to pass that port through somehow. I'm going to take a copy of that command line and come out of that Docker. Docker run. So port forwarding. Where's port forwarding? Entry point. IP. That's an IP address. Name, network. Try running Docker with the local network. Okay, what do I do for that? Is it -- privileged? It comes to something, doesn't it, when a strict -- network host connect a container to a network. Okay, I'll give it a go. Yep. So okay, muckdfoo cdfoo cat to test.c. Void main. Creating gRPC channel, setting dmatch size bytes, blah, action not cached, running in cache-only mode, executing locally. We did indeed call getActionResult, so we're getting somewhere. Rec doesn't provide a version number. That's interesting. Indolence is the name of the computer. So how do we get it to upload the results? So server instance cache only, cache upload failed builds. Well, the build didn't fail. Verbose metrics, no path rewrite. Send all commands to build server. Non-compile commands won't be executed locally. Rec cache upload. Can I please register a bug report that is not described in -- help? And it had no effect. It still says action not cached running locally. Do I have to set the server root for it to cache. Maybe you are imagining its existence. It's possible. Force remote would just fail horribly. Skip cache, we don't want it to do. Don't save output. Well, we want it to save the output. Global paths, override. Environment stuff is not relevant because we just want it to upload the action afterwards. Digest function. It's possible it never uploads. That would be very sad. Source. I'm probably not going to be able to work it out, am I? Let's code dev git rec, and I don't trust this, so let's go in there. It's not that I don't trust your code, it's specifically that otherwise it's going to start trying to do all sorts of C compilers. Rec cache upload local build. Rec cache upload failed build is listed. Let's give it a go. Ooh. Well, that made a difference. That says action cache updated. And it did do a batch update blobs and then an update action result. Let's see if it's able to do this. Yes! You are correct. Rec uses batch read blobs. Oh, I've just knocked everything over. I'm trying to get a drink. Give me a moment. Oh, that fizzes up. Top tip of the day, if you knock over your fizzy Vimto, it go fuzzy. There we go. Right. So, we need to implement batch read blobs, otherwise rec can't do its job. That's more like it. Far prefer to try to make stuff work with real clients. Let's do batch read blobs. We don't need rec source code. We don't need CAS play. We need here. Batch read blobs. Okay. Server main force a limit to the combined total size of the blobs. Limit may be obtained by using the capabilities API. Requests exceeding the limit should be split into smaller chunks or downloaded using bytestream. Equivalent to calling a read request on each blob in parallel. The reads may succeed or fail independently. Invalid argument. The status error. Every error on individual reads will be returned. Oh, Christ. Okie dokie. Let's give it a go. Batch read blobs. Step 1. I don't want to know you if it's not for me. Step 2. Request equal request dot into inner. 4. Digest in request dot. Batch read blobs request. Digests. Excellent. Let's yoink that, and then everything starts to make more sense. Okay, so we've been given a digest. We want to retrieve it. Let data equal self server. And I'll do this inside the loop rather than outside it, because then it allows things to interleave properly. Content, get, digest, map arc clone. If some else. Okay, so in the error case, what do we do? Well, we need to match batch read blobs response. A response corresponding to a simple blob returns a batch read blob response. Digest bytes. Oh, it's a nested message. I'm being stupid. Okay. Responses is that structure. So we need to do a Google RPC status. Okay. Compressor is probably going to be identity and responses. So if we couldn't find the data, we need to insert a new response. So let mute response equal batch read blobs response with what is almost certainly going to be a vector. And let's do OK of response new response. Whew, okay, what's this thing called? It's called a batch read blobs response. Of course it is. Let res equal batch read. It's going to be batch read blobs response. No code actions. Right, let's go and find where it is. Batch read blobs response, vector of responses. It's a batch read blobs response : response. So it is that. Else. Batch read blobs response. No code actions. Why no code actions? You should be giving me all sorts of things. Missing on... Oh. Let ret equal... Fill that out. Well spotted. Compressor. Compressor is an I32, so it's going to be compressor value identity. No, that's all wrong. Is it just compressor identity? No, that's all wrong. Right, come on then. Compressor must be identity / blah, one of the acceptable compressors specified in. I could have sworn I was doing something with compressor before. Is it in here? Nope. Okay. So anyway, let's look for identity. Flip me. The structures that Tonic produces are not the easiest to grok. Mismatch types I32. Yeah, we'll probably need to cast that. Okay, So the digest will be digest. The data will be empty. Definitely remember you doing something like that. Yeah, so do I. I'm not sure. And status needs to be some easy to upload. Oh, it might have been an uploader, yeah. So this is a Google RPC status. Oh god, that's a complex thing as well. So it needs a code. RPC code not found. It needs a message. Not found. And it needs some details. Vec of any, so we'll just make that an empty vec. General gRPC problem, yeah. And of course the digest is an option in the result, so we do that. And that RPC code needs to be an I32 as well. And instead of doing let ret equals, we can just do response.responses.push. All of that. So that's our not found result. So now we need to do the actually I found it result. Response.responses.push batch read blobs response digest data data dot to vec compressor status. Do we think that's going to be right? I think so. So the last thing that we want to do is we want to determine if the total size of this response is getting too big. Are we allowed to just stop at that point? What are the rules for batch read blobs? Invalid argument, the client attempted to read more than the server supported limit. Okay, let mute total red equals 0. Total red increment by data.len. If total red is greater than 2 megabytes. Invalid argument, too much data requested. It's hideous. We're going to, compute a whole bunch of stuff, allocate memory, and then delete it. But we're not going for efficiency. We're going for something hacked up that works. Oh, hang on. We should stick some logging in, shouldn't we? Info, batch, read blobs, items. Go again. Unused import. That's going to annoy me, but it doesn't particularly matter. Let's just yoink that out, ready for the next time we do a build. Oh, I'm doing a release build. That's going to be slow. Yeah, okay. So back to rec. First run should upload it, which it has. Second run has an action cache hit, and we did a 2-item batch read blobs. Is 2 megabytes what you use in your cache capabilities response? Almost certainly not. What do I use in my cache capabilities response? Max batch total size bytes, that. So you're saying I should use that as a constant. Max batch bytes. Bet you anything you like, it's meant to be an i64 because this is stupid. There we go. Fixed. Let's go again. Swirly, swirly. I don't know whether you guys can hear my computer fans going mad when I compile stuff. Uploaded. Got a cache hit. Clearly is actually executing the builds. Clearly wasn't. Okay, that's rec and Bazel working against CAS play. And we're approaching 2 hours, so I think that's probably a good amount of time for the stream. So let me push that change up as well. So that is commit implement batch read blobs, push. There we go. So today, in summary, we have implemented enough of the action cache that Bazel works, and that included implementing what was it? Was it find missing blobs? And then we managed to get rec running against it, and we've managed to make rec successfully cache into CAS play, and that involved writing batch read blobs. I hope that was interesting for people. It was quite fun for me, and thank you very much for being here. I will see you guys next time. Do I press that? No. No, do I press that? I know how my computer works. Bye-bye.